3 hours before a royal wedding at Westminster, Mary placed the principal centerpiece with steady hands. Every Saint Etienne rose in it was a black-edged rarity, bred by her grandfather in Provence.
What are those? They look funereal. Someone find an actual British florist. Not whatever this is.
They're the finest roses in Europe. She doesn't know.
I want her out of here, now. Clear these arrangements out, immediately.
Mary didn't argue. She began lifting the centerpiece into a cardboard box. Her movements deliberate, each stem a small goodbye.
60 years of breeding, and they call it funereal.
The hand-tied ribbon bore a tiny family crest, a mark no one in that room recognized. But it held a secret older than the cathedral stones. With 2 hours' notice and a lifetime of work in a box, Mary walked toward the side door, her face unreadable, her dignity like armor. Mary walked the long stone corridor toward the side entrance, the box of flowers pressing into her chest.
How did it come to this? A royal wedding, and I am leaving before it starts.
6 weeks earlier, the call had come to her Brooklyn atelier while she was pruning Saint Etienne stems.
The royal household requires your services, the voice had said. The words felt like a dream.
She was chosen for her access to the rare Saint Etienne rose, a bloom her grandfather Anthony had bred in Provence.
Papa Anthony's rose. He spent decades perfecting it, and now it was supposed to grace a royal altar.
Her fingers found the small silver pin on her collar, a black rose worn smooth by decades of touching it for strength.
Never forget who you are, he'd said when he pinned it on me. I can still hear his voice.
Now the black-edged petals lay packed in cardboard, dismissed as funereal by a bride who saw only darkness. She pushed open the side door and stepped into the cold London air, the weight of 3 generations pressing against her chest. The ribbon on the centerpiece bore a family crest no one noticed, a mark from a hidden history. The crest was her grandfather Anthony's, who bred the Saint Etienne rose in 1961. As an army botanist in Avignon, he created a new rose through years of quiet crossbreeding.
He said it was a bridge, a way for his work to cross into futures he'd never see.
I asked for white English roses. They sent me something that belongs at a funeral. I won't walk past flowers that dark. It's morbid. Have everything removed immediately.
In Mary's atelier, a folder held his diagrams, charcoal petals and careful handwritten notes from 1961.
Every page taught me that beauty is inherited, and real things take lifetimes to bloom.
Now the results of that lifetime sat in a cardboard box, rejected for being too dark. Elizabeth didn't know she was refusing a debt that had waited 64 years for this morning. Outside in the cold, Mary remembered the last thing she had done before leaving the antechamber. She had removed the centerpiece from the box and retied the satin ribbon, the family crest centered like a seal.
If no one sees what is here, let them at least see the mark.
Madam, you must leave now. The bride's orders are final.
She set the centerpiece on a side table near the entrance, where anyone passing might stop. Then she picked up her equipment and walked toward the corridor, the chamberlain already turning away. Now the centerpiece sat alone in the antechamber, a hidden message waiting. In less than an hour, the Queen Mother would pass that table on her way to inspect the ceremonial guard.
Papa, I left your mark. The rest is out of my hands.
She waited by the car, unaware that the moment of recognition was already unfolding inside. Mary waited by the car, her box of equipment at her feet, the cold air stinging her cheeks. Through the open door, she heard a footman's voice. The Queen Mother will be passing through the antechamber shortly.
If I walk back now, stand near the centerpiece. She might see, but he'd ordered me out. Dignity is all I have left today.
She touched the pin once, then climbed into the car, her back straight, her decision final. Inside the antechamber, the Queen Mother entered, her powder blue suit immaculate, her gaze missing nothing. She walked slowly, her routine inspection halted only by the half-packed centerpiece on the side table. She did not yet lean in, but she did not move on either. Something held her. The centerpiece remained exactly where Mary had left it, the ribbon crest like a small flag waiting to be read. Outside, the car door closed, and Mary drove away, unaware she was leaving the one person who could read the mark. The Queen Mother took 3 slow, deliberate steps toward the side table. Her gaze locked on the dark petals. Her age-spotted hand rose, trembling slightly, and touched the satin ribbon as if afraid it would vanish.
This crest. I know this crest. I haven't seen it in 60 years.
She turned, her eyes sharp as cut glass, the entire antechamber falling silent.
Who designed this centerpiece? I want the name.
Your Majesty. It was the American Florist from Brooklyn. The bride found her arrangements unsuitable and ordered her gone.
Gone. Her name. Now.
The booking was under an atelier. Mary's Garden, I believe. The full name is on the contract.
Find it and bring her back this minute.
A footman sprinted toward the side exit, but the door swung open onto an empty street. The black car had already pulled away. The footman burst through the side door, breathless, and saw the black car already rolling away. He cupped his hands and shouted, his voice cutting through the cold. "Madam, wait. The Queen Mother needs you." The car stopped. Mary turned in her seat, her heart jumping at the sight of the waving footman.
The Queen Mother? She saw the centerpiece?
She didn't ask questions. She simply walked back through the side door, the footman hurrying ahead.
She's coming back. Who authorized that? My wedding is in 2 hours.
The maid could only say it was by order of the Queen Mother herself. Elizabeth's mouth opened, then closed. Mary stepped into the antechamber, a second time, but now the air had shifted. The Queen Mother stood beside the centerpiece, her hand still resting on the ribbon, her eyes meeting Mary's without blinking. In the silence, both women knew something on that table was about to change everything.
You have honored a promise made 64 years ago, though you could not have known.
Mary felt the weight of a history she didn't yet understand, pressing through those elegant fingers.
Restore the centerpiece directly.
Mary lifted the arrangement without a word and carried it toward the grand altar, her footsteps steady on the old stone.
What is she doing here?
The Queen Mother drew Elizabeth into a quiet corner, her voice low and sharp as a blade.
You sent away a woman carrying a debt older than your title. Do not speak again until you understand why.
Flashbulbs ignited as Mary set the centerpiece in place, capturing the moment for a world that had nearly missed it. She stepped back, and the black-edged roses gleamed under the cathedral lights, no longer funereal, but regal.
Stay for the ceremony, Mary. Your place is here now.
Mary stood in the shadow of a stone pillar, her hands clasped, watching the altar of her work. The organ thundered, and Elizabeth began her long walk past the arrangements she had tried to banish.
She won't look at them, but she knows what they are now.
On the altar, the Saint Etienne roses caught the candlelight, their black edges melting into a deep, living crimson. Halfway through the vows, Elizabeth's gaze strayed toward Mary's shadow. Their eyes met for one sharp, silent second.
Child, there's no need to be afraid. I am not here to hunt this day.
The ceremony sealed. The cathedral emptied with laughter and chatter, but Mary stayed behind the pillar, letting them pass. When the last footfall faded, she walked to the altar and touched one black petal, as though listening. The Queen Mother, on her way out, met her eyes and gave a single significant nod. Then, Mary slipped out into the dying light, a secret still clasped between two women, waiting to be unfolded. As Mary walked away from the cathedral, a footman touched her elbow. "Madam, the Queen Mother requests a private word."
A private audience? After today, maybe I should just go home.
But a pull deeper than exhaustion made her follow the footman through a maze of stone corridors. He stopped at a door painted the soft blue of a Cornish sky and opened it without a sound. The Queen Mother sat in a high-backed chair, a silver tea service gleaming on the table before her.
Sit, my dear. We have a very long story to share, you and I.
Mary lowered herself into the opposite chair, her fingers instinctively touching the black rose pin on her collar. The Queen Mother poured tea, the liquid's soft hiss, the only sound in the small room.
That ribbon on every arrangement, it is your grandfather's mark, isn't it? A crest from another time.
Mary nodded, her throat too tight for words, as the Queen Mother set down the pot and began to speak of a promise, 64 years in the waiting.
In the spring of 1962, I was in Avignon and met a remarkable man, a U.S. Army botanist.
The memory flickered into the room like old film, a sunlit Provence garden, and a young Queen Mother in pastel gloves.
He showed me a rose he'd bred with his own hands, petals the color of blood tipped in night.
He placed 3 cuttings into a small wooden box, tied with a ribbon bearing the very crest Mary used today.
He said, "Your Majesty, these will remind you of France forever." I never forgot his face.
The young Queen Mother planted those cuttings in the Buckingham Garden, and they became the source of every Saint-Étienne rose for 64 years.
That was my grandfather. Anthony, you met him.
I know, my dear. The crest on your ribbon told me the moment I saw it.
Papa gave her the roses that grew here my entire life. They've been waiting for me.
We've been quietly searching for his descendants for decades. Today, the search ends.
The Queen Mother slid a thick cream envelope across the polished table, the royal seal heavy with red wax.
This is only a small thing, but it is my pledge, and the household's thanks for a debt 64 years old.
Mary's green-stained fingers broke the seal with a tremor she could not control. Inside, a permanent contract for every state event, every banquet, every garden party, every royal reception. Below it, a separate parchment, black-bordered and solemn, naming her the sole florist at any royal funeral.
Not just celebrations, final goodbyes. They trust me with grief.
A tear slipped off her chin and stained the paper before she could stop it.
Your grandfather gave this family beauty for 64 years. Now, guide us in our most tender moments.
Papa, did you know? Did you plan this?
She held the papers to her chest, unable to speak, as the weight of generations settled into her heart. By morning, a royal statement credited the wedding flowers to Mary's Garden of Brooklyn, honoring a historic bond. News outlets ran the photo of the Queen Mother holding her hands. Headline: "A debt 64 years in the making."
My phone hasn't stopped. Papa's name is everywhere.
She boarded the plane at Heathrow, the envelope never leaving her carry-on. High above the clouds, she traced the wax seal, still warm from the Queen's hand. The scent of dried roses and soil in her Brooklyn atelier wrapped around her like an old coat. She set the envelope on the workbench, beside Anthony's photograph. 2 pieces of a puzzle, finally touching.
I left a rejected florist. I came back a royal appointee.
She didn't open the papers again. She just sat, the silence saying everything. Outside the window, Brooklyn hummed its ordinary song, but inside, a quiet light had shifted. In the quiet of the morning, Mary opened the old leather folder that held her grandfather's botanist papers.
Every charcoal line, every notation in his hand, evidence of a lifetime's quiet brilliance.
She chose a simple black frame and pressed the yellowed sheets against the glass, as if laying a sacred text to rest.
These roots grew everything. Now, they'll be seen.
Next, the royal contract, heavy parchment, royal seal, went up beside the botanist notes.
A direct line from Papa's garden to the palace.
Finally, the funeral covenant, its black borders a quiet vow, she placed in an ornate holder.
We did it, Papa. They'll remember your name now.
She stepped back, and the wall became a story in frames. 3 generations of soil, service, and something like grace. Mary touched the silver pin on her collar and let the tears fall, a serene smile finally breaking through. A courier in royal livery stepped into the atelier, handing over a commission for a state banquet.
Papa's black roses, requested for the grandest tables in England. Full circle.
She walked to the cooler, sliding out trays of Saint-Étienne blooms, their dark edges crisp and perfect. A young apprentice watched as Mary's stained hands picked each stem with quiet authority.
Feel the stem, not the petal. The strength is here, where it draws life.
The workbenches were covered in green stems, and the phone rang every few minutes with new inquiries.
The phone never stops. Each call is a door that used to be closed.
She tied the ribbon crest around each arrangement, the silver pin on her collar catching the afternoon light. In her mind, she saw the grand hall of Buckingham, her grandfather's roses waiting on every table. This time, she was not hoping for a place. She had been given one, signed and sealed. In a quiet London room, Elizabeth sat at a writing desk, the weight of her mistake settling into her pen.
How could I not see? His roses were a debt I almost threw away.
The letter, in her handwriting, read, "I am so sorry, for your art, for your family, for my blindness." In Brooklyn, the postman delivered a cream envelope without a royal seal.
An apology. After everything.
She read the 3 paragraphs once, then set it on the stack of correspondence.
Not everything deserves a frame, but it deserves to be seen.
Then she picked up a Saint Etienne stem and returned to the workbench.
The rose doesn't need apologies. It just needs to bloom.
And in that quiet refusal to dwell, Mary closed the chapter Elizabeth had opened. The atelier phone rang without pause. Each call a new request from someone who had seen the royal wedding. A young hire answered with rehearsed kindness, taking down names faster than Mary could fill the blooms. The story was everywhere. Royal snub corrected, Brooklyn florist appointed to palace, shared 1,000,000 times.
This isn't about the fame. It was never about the fame. It was about the rose. Papa's rose. Everything else is noise.
She trimmed stems and tied ribbons. The noise of the world outside, silenced by her craft. Orders stacked high, but she moved each flower as if it were the only one.
Papa built this rose in silence. It deserves silence.
In the center of the storm, she was perfectly still, a queen of her own making. The world could wait. The rose was enough. The moment the debt was born, lived in a sunlit garden in Avignon, summer 1962.
Your Majesty, these are 3 cuttings of a rose I bred myself. They will always remind you of France. I shall never forget this kindness, Sergeant. The roses will have a place in my own garden.
The small box was tied with a satin ribbon, stamped with a tiny family crest, the same crest Mary would use 64 years later.
And perhaps one day, a descendant of mine may serve your house in some way.
If that day comes, I will know them by this mark.
She traced the crest with her gloved finger, a silent promise sealed by the scent of Provençal earth. Those 3 cuttings became the root of every Saint Etienne rose in the Buckingham Garden for 64 years, and the promise waited, unbroken, until a wedding morning in London, when the crest appeared in a half-packed box. In her atelier, Mary didn't need to hear the words. The pin on her collar already told her the story. Mary walked the gravel path of the Buckingham Garden, a guest pass pinned to her coat, the palace shimmering beyond the hedgerows. She stopped before a bush heavy with black-edged roses, the small brass plaque at its base catching the light. The plaque read, "Saint Etienne Rose, gifted by Sergeant Anthony of the U.S. Army, 1962.
His hands were here, in this soil, still blooming after 60 years. Grandfather.
A gardener trimming shrubs nearby paused, his shears still, as if he understood. A light rain began to fall, the kind that feels like a memory, and Mary didn't move.
Not Westminster, not the ballroom. Here, in the dirt, is where the journey ends.
She stood among the roses until the scent filled her lungs, and the circle of 64 years closed around her. In that quiet garden, Mary didn't need a royal contract to know what she had been given. The state banquet hall glittered under 1,000 candles, every table crowned with Saint Etienne roses. Guests leaned toward the centerpieces, whispering about the black-edged roses that had once been called funereal.
They see it now. Not funereal. Regal.
A dignitary extended his hand, and for the first time she accepted a compliment without a flinch. Across the golden room, the Queen Mother caught Mary's eye and lifted her glass in a silent toast. A footman appeared at Mary's elbow and guided her to the empty chair beside Her Majesty.
Your grandfather would be proud.
I know, ma'am.
The Queen Mother touched Mary's hand, a weightless gesture that held a kingdom's gratitude. In that crystal-lit room, Mary was not a vendor any longer. She was the rose her grandfather had planted. Months later, a Botanical Society dinner honored the woman behind the royal roses. The president placed a medal around her neck, citing the rediscovery of the Saint Etienne origin.
My grandfather, Anthony, never sought fame. He simply believed a good rose could bridge continents.
The room rose in applause, and a framed photograph of Anthony in uniform stood on an easel beside her. Back in Brooklyn, she hung the Botanical Society medal beside the botanist papers and the royal contract.
Papa's name in a botanical registry. It was all he ever wanted.
The wall now held the full story: the hand-drawn rose, the royal seal, the funeral covenant, and the medal. Mary traced the glass covering Anthony's photograph, her finger leaving a slight smudge.
Rest now, Papa. They know.
The atelier fell quiet. The final piece of a lifetime's quiet work settled at last. Dawn came soft through the atelier windows, and Mary sat with her coffee, the wall of frames glowing in the early light. Every piece of the story hung before her sorrel, service, sorrow, and the small silver pin on her collar. She didn't need to speak. The room knew what had been finished.
64 years, Papa. We waited for morning.
She rose and walked to the workbench, picking up a fresh Saint Etienne bloom from a vase.
This rose. It's never been just a flower.
She brought it to her nose and inhaled, the scent filling her lungs with a lifetime of quiet work. The silver-black rose pin on her collar glinted, a small, steady star in the morning. She stood there, a woman who had been dismissed, and then chosen, holding a bloom that had outlived every insult. And in the quiet of a Brooklyn morning, a debt 64 years old became simply a rose, fully bloomed.